Thank you so much. I'm very proud and pleased to be here. When they reached out about doing this session, I was really thinking about a lot about our work at FoodChain, what we're doing, what we're really trying to achieve. So we're really focused on being able to forge those links between community and fresh food. That is how we were founded. That is what drives our mission. It is our mission. And we use education and then demonstration of sustainable food systems in order to make that happen. So, raise of hands, because I always like to know this. Who has heard of FoodChain before tonight? Oh, yay, we're doing a good job, I think, of getting our name out there. We were founded in 2011, and really one of the things we like to talk about is that it was the space that sparked the idea. It was not an idea that then found a space. So we're located in what was the old Rainbow Bread Factory. It houses West 6 Brewery, Broke Spoke, KRM. There are artist studios. There's a lot that happens in this building. But one of the things that we really like to do at FoodChain is think about the history of this building. It was in operation for over 100 years. It had a direct connection to fresh food for the neighborhood. It employed a lot of folks in the neighborhood. It provided economic mobility and stability for a lot of people that lived there. So when it closed in 1980, you can imagine with nothing moving into that space and it sitting vacant for 20 years, what happens around that area. You lose access to fresh food. People move away. You lose a lot of the resources and the infrastructure and investment in the neighborhood. So when West 6 Brewery purchased the building, they knew they didn't want the whole building for a brewery, but instead wanted to return a lot of those resources, build back up the neighborhood. And so FoodChain was founded in 2011. We were the first tenant of the building because as a nonprofit, you don't need a renovated space. You don't need electricity. You just need a table and a chair and maybe a computer. And then you can start your work. And so we are very grateful to our founder, Becca Self, who thought of this idea of how can we make a stronger food system? How can we showcase for this neighborhood, provide this access, provide this education to how food is grown, where it comes from, and then from there the idea grew, from there FoodChain grew, and this is kind of where we are today. So we opened Kentucky's first indoor aquaponics farm in 2013, so we spent the first 2 years really thinking about that. What's really unique about it is we are utilizing what was the old oven room for the bread factory, so it's already well insulated. You don't have to do a lot when you can contain heat, farms like that. People don't really like being super, super hot at work, so that's a little bit of a difficult thing sometimes, but our farm grows all of the lettuce that is supplied to Smithtown Seafood. That was done on purpose. It wasn't an accident. We really thought this through of how can we showcase local food? How can Smithtown Seafood have something that is on their menu year-round that really showcases where local food is coming from and how to market that? Shouting us out, putting our name out there. And that's what we do for everyone else. So we have a lot of food literacy programs. Education is what we are as a nonprofit. We are trying to provide education through our aquaponics farm, through our meals, through food literacy classes, farm to school work. We're in schools, we're at community events. We are working with folks in our kitchen to learn the necessary workforce skills, not just to be functional in a kitchen, but to feel a lot more connected to a food system and really showcase how you as an individual play a huge part in the food system and what it looks like. You have choices when it comes to food, and those choices do lead to what you want your food system to look like. In 2020, we really started a lot of our food rescue work with the pandemic. This is where our feeding folks that's up here, that's also mentioned, really just took off. We have always grown at the speed of trust within our neighborhood though. So even prior to all of this, in 2015, we opened the doors of our aquaponics farm, invited community members to come in, share a meal because we all bond over food, and talk about what they wanted to see from us as a nonprofit, what they wanted for their community, and how we could provide those resources and be a bridge. So this is a little bit of our timeline. So you can see in 2017, we did open a teaching and processing kitchen. This was always thought of as phase 2 of FoodChain. And with the opening of that kitchen, we really focused on farmers. This is where we really made our connection to local farmers, because local isn't really defined by the federal government. It's not really defined by the state government. If you are applying for grants, they leave it up to organizations. And so for us at FoodChain, local is from a Kentucky farmer, because other people's definition of 450 miles, that doesn't seem very local to me. You are in a different state in any direction you go here in Kentucky with that measurement. And so for us, we really wanted to honor who it is that is our neighbors, that are close by, and showcase that. And so we began with our teaching and processing kitchen really focusing on seconds and surplus. So this means sweet potatoes that are this big, because we do get these sweet potatoes that are 16 pounds instead of kind of what you see at the grocery store. Carrots that have 2 to 3 feet instead of the perfectly shaped carrots that you see at the grocery store. When it rains, it pours in Kentucky, and that can mean great things for farms, especially from squash production. So we are known for butternut squash. We do everything with butternut squash. We put it in every single meal. If you've ever had a meal from us, there's probably butternut squash in it, and you have no idea that it was there. And so we really wanted to create a market for the farmers in this way. We were not looking for donations. We are looking to honor all of the blood, sweat, tears, money, being out in the cold, being out in the rain that farmers undergo every single day in order to get food to the table. And so we're paying them for these seconds in surplus. We are then processing it into our kitchen, turning it into something that is a little bit more recognizable for some folks, or for folks that maybe don't have a kitchen and don't know how to process a butternut squash or have the tools. We're turning it into something that's a lot easier to be used. Our kitchen has only grown since then. The programs have only grown, so we're going to get into that a little bit later. But in 2019 is when we started our summer food service program. This is a USDA federal program that provides free meals for kids during the summer months when school is not in session. FoodChain started that year really highlighting local food, having kids vote on what meals they wanted, whether it was a pizza with zucchini pepperoni, or if it was pasta with zucchini noodles. Notice we're still providing them with the option of zucchini, because in the summer, that's what we have a lot of. But this way, we're making a lot of connections with younger children, giving them the choice, making them a part of their decision so that they're more likely to eat it, they're more likely to remember it. We actually just had a student come through our kitchen the other day who started coming through our kitchen probably in 2018, and he still has embedded in his mind this memory of making zucchini noodles with us. That is like maybe the only thing he remembers. He didn't like them. He does remember that, but he remembers doing it with us. And that to us is like what we are looking for. 2020, we started Nourish. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I have another slide to go a little bit more into that. Buff is with Seed Leaf. So this is Bluegrass Urban Farm Friends that we started in 2023. It is a middle school and high school internship program so that they can learn urban farming, whether that be aquaponics, whether that be community gardens, going on field trips to other farms, really getting youth very, very involved. In 2024, we were able to participate in the local food purchase assistance program. This federal program has since been canceled, but through that, just in this year alone, we were able to purchase $200,000 worth of products from Kentucky farms. That is huge. Up until that point, up until this year, our total spend with local farms was maybe around $350,000. And that is over the course of our, since 2011. So it is a huge increase. It is a huge loss for farmers not having that program, but we are looking at ways that we can continue doing that. And our growth, and this has always been kind of phase 3 of FoodChain, what we thought would happen is opening a neighborhood green grocery store. So we've talked about food access in our neighborhood. It is so, so, so important that we are getting to that. And so this way we are going to be able to continue a lot of these relationships with farmers that we already built up during the LFPA program, continue to be able to purchase with them, show their stories, tell their stories, make them household names, and open a small, we're not going to be a Kroger, we're not going to be a Walmart, we're going to be a small grocery store. We're not going to be, you know, your go-to for like, I'm going to get all of my needs met at this small grocery, but we are going to focus on fresh, local food. We are going to process things to make it easier to incorporate zucchini noodles into your dinner. And then be able to have some like grab and go ready to eat items, frozen meals that we've already been doing a lot of development on so that we can really showcase education of farms in all of their formats. So why does local food matter? We all know it's good for the economy, right? It just helps your health. We have really, really seen this. It shortens supply chains. So I'm going to tell a story about during the pandemic, 2020, the USDA started a food box program where they were packing food boxes that then were being shipped and distributed around the United States. So Kentucky, in the first round of these contracts, the company that was supplying boxes to Kentucky was in Florida. That's not local, that's not close by, that's really far away. But this was the only way that FoodChain could kind of get their hands on these boxes to distribute to the community. We were receiving, or supposed to receive at one point, 750 boxes. They're supposed to arrive at 7:30 in the morning. We don't have the storage for 750 boxes that are coming on a climate-controlled semi, and so we lined up all of these FRCs from schools to show up at FoodChain. We had all of the times lined up of like, you're gonna get here at this time, we have our volunteers, we're gonna load 50 boxes here, we're gonna load 20 boxes here, until all the boxes are gone. At 7:15, we get a phone call that the truck broke down in Georgia and is not coming. That was probably the worst day for us because we had promised all of this food and all of a sudden we're having to tell people, hey, we tried really hard, but it's not coming. We don't know when it's going to come. We don't know what's going to happen. Compare this to the LFPA program where FoodChain itself is building boxes and sending them out into the community. We are controlling who we're getting food from. We have never had an issue with supply chain when we're buying from local farmers. We have never had an issue with like getting a product when we are in direct communication with the person that is growing it and they're telling us, hey, I do have this much squash and I can bring it on Thursday at 7 o'clock. We are in a better place to be able to plan and build these boxes ourselves and support our community when we are reliant on local farmers. And we've seen and heard a lot of these stories since the pandemic. We're seeing it with school supply chain issues, things not being in production or a factory being shut down and not being able to get that food item that is ordered, you know, a year or a year and a half in advance and not being able to have that on the menu. When we are being able to focus on local farmers and what they have, we are feeding kids better. We are providing things that are more flavorful. We are reducing, you know, the amount of time and travel that farmers are doing. So it's really good. Local food is so good in so many ways. And one of the things I will mention is that we do a lot of meal distribution programs, and the thing we keep hearing over and over and over again from the recipients of our free meals is that it looks good, it tastes good, and I feel good after eating it. And that means the world to us. So, farm to school. This is actually how I got my start at FoodChain and kind of in the world of local food. So prior to joining FoodChain, I was a teacher for 15 years. I taught at a private school, and the school cafeteria decided, hey, we want to overhaul what we're doing. We want to focus on local farms. We want to promote our farmers. We want to source locally, and we want to do scratch cooking. And I said, that's great. How can I help? And they're like, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on and that guides our conversations at FoodChain is that access and education have to go hand in hand. So if you are overhauling the cafeteria and you're going to have these really great meals, but you're doing nothing in the education realm for the teachers, for the students, for the parents, you're not really going to see that much change. And so I started organizing a lot of farm to school lessons. I will mention I was also a Spanish teacher, so I was doing this all in Spanish. So I was going into all of the classrooms, creating these lessons, growing gardens with kids, and realizing, hey, they really enjoy this, but they also have no clue about where their food comes from. They really think that Kroger is back there growing food and like putting it on the shelves. And so when the position became available at FoodChain, I saw this greater opportunity to be able to do a lot more education when it came to local food and local farmers for more than just one school. So these are some of the things we've been able to do. We chair the Fayette County Farm to School Coalition. FoodChain has done this since 2017. This also allows us to provide a lot more support to teachers. While this doesn't change the procurement policies of a lot of the big schools, we can make those connections with farmers. We can bring farmers into the classrooms. This first picture is from 2019, and we were gearing off to do so many great things, and then the pandemic kind of disrupted a lot of that, but we were able to do these really great local lunch events at 4 schools. Where we took over the menu for the week. So I made all these signs to highlight what the food item was that was local, where it came from. We did newsletters. We had posters all over the school. We made it into a competition for kids, like which class is going to increase their participation and eat local, you know, the entire week. But they had a local food menu every single day of the week. And what we saw at the end of the week is that every single kid in that school could name all the local items. They could name all of the farms. They were then, the kids that were packing their lunches were opening their lunchbox and pulling things out and saying, hey, can this grow locally? Hey, do you think this came from the farmer's market? Looking at the packaging. It really changed the way that they thought about food and that they looked at food. Too often there is this disconnect between who grows our food and, you know, eating it and consuming it. And so we also, as a part of this, brought in a different farmer every single day. Granted, not all farmers want to come into schools and visit. That is okay. But those who are willing, we think that it is super, super important so that especially youth can put a face to, hey, this is who's growing my food. This is really cool. I can ask all of these questions. We support taste tests, school gardens, classroom visits. Fayette County Public Schools, for the first time last year, hosted Food Corps members. FoodChain is continuing by hosting them this year to be able to grow that program. Food Corps members are going to help advance local food knowledge, be in the classrooms providing lessons, highlighting the local food, doing cooking classes. All of this is like super, super, super important when it comes to really building up and thinking of farmers as your neighbors. One of the things I like to do, and I'm going to put everybody on the spot, but I think it might go a little too well this time with this crowd. So, how many grocery stores can you name? Like, just shout them out. Okay, 10 in like 8 seconds, right? Okay, how many local farms or farmers can you name? Yell them out. 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're getting there, right? But it's taking maybe a little bit longer. So that's an activity I do with like all of the kids. We do this with groups because while it puts you on the spot, it does cause you to think, wait, Kroger's not the one growing the food, but that's who I associate with the food. And that's the thing that we really want to change. We want to make farmers household names. And the way that you do it is by promoting them. So our Nourish program, this is what we started in 2020 in response to the pandemic. We did not close. Instead, we pivoted immediately. We knew that we had an industrial commercial kitchen. We could take donations from restaurants. We had already built up a lot of these farmer relationships from our previous work with processing and purchasing seconds and surplus. And so immediately, we were set up to be able to take this food, cook it, and get it out into the community. But one of the things that we wanted to make super certain was that we were highlighting who we were getting this food from, and that we were showcasing folks on the food. Like, the meal itself became educational for us. This is what you can do with, 200 pounds of asparagus that's not going to this restaurant that's now closed. This is how you turn it into a meal. This is what you can do with 400 pounds of ground lamb. Let's turn it into a shepherd's pie and distribute it to the community. And so on all of our food, and you can kind of see on some of these, we have labels. Every single thing that comes out of our kitchen has a label with the ingredients, but we highlight what is local, we highlight the farm that it comes from, and this simple thing really pushes and creates that knowledge about who it is that's growing the food, and helps folks to look at that and then maybe look up a farmer later. Maybe be going to the farmer's market and go, hey, wait, I recognize this name, so I know that they are doing good and that they grow really great things. We source directly from a network of over 50 Kentucky farmers. This spans 30 different counties in Kentucky, and this is something that we hope to keep growing. However, FoodChain is not trying to necessarily grow and be the response for food across the state. We really are focused on our neighborhood. We really are focused here in Lexington. That is where we've spent the time building up relationships and community, and that's where we can respond the best. With our Nourish program, we have this encompasses all of our food programs. So during the pandemic, that meant hot meals. We continue that hot meal production today. We're distributing 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So Mondays and Wednesdays, we do hot meals. On Fridays, we're doing food boxes, and that is including a lot of the local fresh whole produce from our farmers that we're able to get. Currently, our numbers, so each person can take up to 4 hot meals. Our numbers are hitting 700 meals a night. During the pandemic, our average, we were allowing people to take 10 meals because we were like, feed your neighbors, feed all the kids in your, in your apartment complex. Our numbers were averaging maybe 250. It is a huge jump. It is definitely a need that we see is growing and is not being entirely met in our community. In December of 2020, we decided to introduce a new element to Nourish, and this was our delivery program. So when we were having our hot meals, we recognized that we had at one point like 600 or 62 different pickup sites throughout the city, but yet we were still hearing from folks who had mobility issues, who had small children at home, who had other things going on, who were working that they couldn't get to one of our pickup sites. And so our response was, we need to do a delivery program. We need to meet people where they are. And so we started by delivering hot meals and frozen meals, and learned very quickly, driving 3 or 4 Cambros of hot meals around in a van, and then packing them in bags, dropping them at doorsteps. Hot meals do not travel well in Cambros that way. And we were actually hearing from our recipients that that was the thing they wanted the least. They wanted the bags of produce. They wanted the fresh ingredients. They wanted access to that to be able to cook for themselves and to be able to provide what their family would eat. And so that evolved and became our Nourish Box delivery program. Now, folks who are receiving that can elect to receive either a box with whole fresh ingredients. This also helped us reduce a lot of food safety concerns we had with delivering hot and frozen meals. When you are delivering a whole watermelon or a whole butternut squash, it can sit in that box for a couple of hours before somebody gets to it. So they can elect the box that is going to have a recipe suggestion based on the ingredients, along with an education packet that's providing more information about the farmers that provided the food. We were doing a lot of like food science experiments, especially during the pandemic, realizing that there were a lot of young children at home, and like, how can we make this interactive? How can we create more opportunities for parents and small children to interact more with what is in this box? Or they can receive frozen meals. And so for the frozen meals, these are meals that we are making in-house. So these are prioritizing local items where we can, but we also do a lot of food rescue work. So that means taking things from grocery stores that may have been damaged in shipment, or they received too much, or is nearing an end date, and we are able to then turn that into meals and distribute into our community. We currently serve about 150 households, and that represents around 700 people that are receiving these on a weekly basis. One of the things that is really kind of life-changing about it is, like, we think of our Nourish program as a heartbeat. It is consistent. We know, like, folks can rely on us showing up every week at the same time, and if we have to make a change, they are notified well in advance. Our delivery program is not meant to replace like all of your grocery shopping. It's meant to supplement it and to be able to introduce a lot more of that local food that a lot of low-income individuals aren't able to afford. We do a lot of community education. So the seconds in surplus, all of the local food, you see it across all of this. Our community cooking classes, we do these once a month. It's open to anyone in the community. And we always focus on one local ingredient. So a really great example of this is one of our board members actually came to one of our classes. She herself is a farmer, but she said, I don't know how to cook with eggplant, and you guys are having an eggplant class, and I really want to learn. And so she came and learned from our education support specialist how to prepare eggplant in a way that was delicious, and then took that back home and was able to replicate it. A lot of the skills and the focuses on local food that we do in these classes, we are seeing repeated when we follow up with individuals. And then they are also able to go to Good Foods, go to the farmer's market, find these local food items, and then continue cooking with them. So our Buff program, which I mentioned earlier, the Bluegrass Urban Farm Friends, this summer we hosted 30 different students. So we had 20 middle school students and 10 high school students. And we took them on field trips. So this is a photo from Dreamtime Market. We took them out there to help with some weeding, help with some harvesting, be able to see what farming looks like here in Lexington. And then we do a lot of school field trips and virtual education. So this is, can't see it very well, she's holding a shrimp because we have a shrimp aquaponics system. So we have a saltwater aquaponics system on our farm. And this is a group of kids from the Dunbar Community Center, which we work with to provide meals during the summer. And so part of what we really try and do with all of our sites that we're partnering with for free meals for kids is to provide that education piece as well. Bring them to see a farm, you know, take cooking classes on the road with them so that they get that experience in addition to the access to the meal. But it's all about building relationships. That is really what we are doing with everything. And so with our meal sourcing comes name recognition. This is just a screenshot from our social media. When we are posting about meals, when we are posting about boxes, we are also tagging like 7 different farms and farmers and local food suppliers in that. It is super important for us that we are lifting them up, making these names really well known, and bringing them into this community that we have really built. Our Pop Kids Club at the Lexington Farmers Market, has anyone seen this in action or know about it? Oh my gosh, this is such a great program. So we started this in 2017, and this is actually an idea from the Farmers Market Coalition. It was started many, many years ago at another farmer's market and kind of spread. And so it's a way that we can really engage with youth at the farmer's market, provide them with purchasing power, provide them with education. For the 10 weeks that school is out during the summer, we host the Pop Kids Club. We do it at the Saturday market, the Sunday market, and the Wednesday market. So we're offering 3 different opportunities for kids to come and participate. And so they get a taste test of a different local food item each week. We highlight the farm that it comes from. So if they really, really like it, they can go and find that farmer and see if they can negotiate on being able to get it. And then we do some kind of activity that really engages them. Some of my favorite, so this is a farmer's market bingo. Our first one that we do every season is a farmer's market scavenger hunt, and then interviews with a farmer. One of the things that we have seen is when you're putting kids and their parents, because their parents are always behind them, helping them, and you're giving them these opportunities to interact directly with a farmer, what comes out of that, let me find the quote from my... So I had some kids come up one year and say, oh, we're gonna go talk to our pickle guy and ask him questions. Oh, I know exactly who I'm gonna go talk to. I'm gonna go find Leo and ask him this question. And that means the world. They're on a first name basis. They know these farmers now. And kids are so excited to come to the farmer's market and be able to participate in something that is for them, but also learn from that young age that local farmers, this is what they look like. They come here, you can interact with them. It is not somebody like you never see. It is somebody who is working so hard to make sure that we are fed. In addition, they get $5 that they can then spend at the farmer's market. But the caveat is that it has to be on fruits or vegetables or plants that will grow fruits and vegetables, not the honey sticks that we always get the questions for. And then taking farmers into schools, classes, and events. This is from one of our local lunch events. A lot of times if I don't know who a farmer is, I will just reach out. So I became connected to a farmer from Eastern Kentucky University who ran their farm, but then like 4 weeks after I connected with him and took him to one of the schools and took him into a kindergarten classroom to let kindergartners ask what it's like to be a farmer. He moved away, but he kept like saying how amazing it was that he was able to be invited, that he was able to have this platform, that he was able to come in. I will just reach out. We have a good relationship with the Farm Bureau. We have a good relationship with KDA. We also have this network of 50 farmers. And so we were able to make those connections and really get farmers into classrooms so that kids can see from a young age. And then our plans for our neighborhood green grocery is to highlight everyone and all of the farmers we work with and put their names up in big letters. It is not about us. We are not the ones that are growing the food, but we have this platform so that we can provide this announcement and this marketing for our local farmers because it's so important. And it's also a two-way street. So one of the things that we found through the Nourish program is providing the like stories about our meal recipients to farmers of like, this is how much this local food means to me, this is how it has changed my life, this is how it has helped me, is as equally like empowering and thoughtful and necessary. And a lot of our farmers were like, I haven't been involved in that conversation. I really enjoy knowing where the food is going, how people are using it, how they are reacting to it. So these are the photos of our neighborhood green grocery. The really amazing thing about this photo here of the finished renovated space is if you had ever been to FoodChain before, this is actually the oldest part of the building. It was built in the 1880s, so it was also the last part of the building for us to renovate because it can be scary when you start hammering and digging up floors. There used to be no windows in this room. It was completely dark. We had no electricity. We used this space as cold storage for all of like our dry goods and our like root vegetables all during the pandemic, and we all walked in with the flashlight on our phones. We didn't think to get like a big flashlight. We're like, the flashlight on our phone is enough to walk in here. And so being able to renovate this space and create so much openness it makes it really inviting, and that's what we want. We want this to be a community space. It's not just a grocery store. It's an opportunity to make those connections, to build those relationships with one another, with the farmers that are delivering on a daily basis, with the folks that are working here, with the employees who are coming from the neighborhood. And so we're super, super excited. We are getting closer. If you come in it now, it looks really messy because we're now back to using it as lots of storage. But we are really excited to start moving forward, getting all of the equipment we need into this space, the signage up, and we are looking for our grand opening being in the beginning of 2026. Do not ask me for an exact date. You'll just have to watch our social media for when that will happen. So what we've learned. Access to food isn't enough. It's not enough. You have to have those relationships. You have to have that education, and people need context. If you're just handing them a carrot saying, oh, this is a local carrot, a lot of times then it goes out of their mind. But if you're handing it to them and you're giving the story behind it and you're telling them the name of the farmer that grew it, it is more likely to stay in their mind. They need to know what to do with kohlrabi or greens. I've used a lot of kohlrabi in cooking classes because why not? It grows in Kentucky, it's edible, let's make a really delicious meal out of it. And kids are incredible change agents. They go home excited about the things they try at school. And then farmers, they need to be at the center of the food system. We shouldn't be having conversations about food access without including farmers. That is so, so important. For us at FoodChain, it is important that we have representation on our board of directors with farmers, with hearing their voices, with including them in the plans for the grocery, so that we can make sure that we are building those relationships, that they are along for the journey with us. And that we're telling the stories. We are big storytellers at FoodChain. I am actually very surprised that I'm like staying on time with this presentation, because usually like we will talk for hours about our work. But here are a couple things of how you can help promote Kentucky farms, and I don't know if you can see it. So this is a picture. We took our high school students to UK South Farm, and they had like a whole day working and doing harvesting and then putting things through the processor. So there's actually 3 faces at the end of this giant peeler here peeking out. So those are 3 of our high school students. But invite local farmers to speak at events, feature farm stories, shop local. There are so many studies out there, and I'm not going to quote them, but there's something that says like if everyone spends just $10 extra locally, it means so much more for our economy and so much more investment in our economy. And then support farm-friendly policies and purchasing practices, and ask your farmer, does this work for you? One of the things, it wouldn't be a speaking event if I didn't plug like an upcoming fundraiser. So one of the things we like to do around Thanksgiving is really provide access to local turkey, to local products for our meal recipients. We partner with Farmer Joe. We will be having a fundraiser to help fundraise to cover the cost of his turkeys, so that we can kind of keep that money local, support our farmers, and then support everyone that we work with so that they get a really good Thanksgiving dinner when they might not be able to have that themselves. So watch our social media for that. And yeah, thank you. It has to be from the people. That is one of the things that during the pandemic, we didn't just go into neighborhoods where we weren't established. We sought out who are the community champions, who are the folks in this neighborhood who know everyone, so that if we come in with free food, you've got a trusted face there who is able to help. So we work really closely with community advocates. We work closely with KRM to learn, we were working with a lot of immigrant and refugee populations. What are their needs? Culturally, are their food needs being met? And during the pandemic, a lot of that was no, they aren't. And so one of the things that we really try and do is listen to our community, but then encourage others to, we can help as a food hub with getting food and then having like a distribution point, but we can't always be that voice of representation in the community. And so if you find that there are ways to organize, your church group or a neighborhood association, you can then come and talk to us at FoodChain and we will help you. We love to consult, love to tell you what goes right and what goes wrong and how to do things and the lessons that we have learned. But we also recognize we don't want to be the answer for everything and everyone. And part of the role we see as a nonprofit is we're trying to work ourselves out of a job so that there is food access and everyone's needs are being met, and we don't need organizations like FoodChain to make that happen. Yeah, so one of the things we really want to continue and that we've been thinking a lot about is seconds and surplus. This is perfectly good food. It is, there are businesses that have made this into a business model on a national scale of get your box of Misfits and things that don't look the way they should, but that's coming from a national scale, and they're shipping things nationally and across state lines, and we don't need to do that. We can do that locally. And so we want to continue our relationships with farmers, getting seconds and surplus, being able to purchase at wholesale prices, and then create it at cost for our customers. We are not trying to look at marking up seconds and surplus food as a way to make it more affordable, as a way to provide that direct access. But yeah, it is definitely going to be a challenge, and it is something that we are continuing to study and look at. One of the things that we always say is there's enough money in the world to pay for food, and there's enough food in the world to pay for people or to feed everyone. We just have to make those two things come together. And that's a lot of times what we look at ourselves as being is being able to fundraise to pay for the food to then give it to the people who need it.
Absolutely, thank you. Here's a question that I think was something that I would have asked. I think it's very challenging for a lot of people thinking about buying local food. Going to the farmer's market is one thing, but it's often a challenge. This person asks, what's the best way for me to go fully local if it's even possible to do so?
Fully local is hard. I mean, even through our LFPA program, so one of the contracts we had was to make frozen meals. Well, not every single ingredient you can source locally. And so for us, the way that we are moving forward and looking at our frozen meal production is being able to use at least 60% local. And that way you're able to incorporate some cheaper items that makes it able to afford those local items going in there. So I definitely think start small. I myself struggle with fully local. So start small, start incorporating a couple things here and there. Maybe set a goal for 60% and see how well you do, and then increase from there.
We know eggplants and pickles.
Eggplants, pickles, kohlrabi,
Yes.
Lots of butternut.
Yes.
You can turn it into noodles, you can put it in muffins, you can make a cheese sauce. There's so many different ways. We do, yes. So we really do look at ourselves as being almost a food hub. So we are considered an agency of God's Pantry, which actually makes it really great, especially in the summer with their Farms to Food Bank program, because we are actually able to get pallets of local food through that for free. So it helps us to supplement what we are doing at FoodChain, but then it also makes it so that we are able to work with a lot of community partners. We work with a lot of recovery centers. We're working just with interested parties at a church who have a group and know folks that need some food. And so we are becoming that central pickup point. So we will get stuff delivered to our space, and then folks will come to us and distribute it, because we can't be everything to everyone. And we know that there are other organizations that have their constituents that are really strong, and what we can be is stronger together. will be on our site. So that space it's the corner, it's right next to the Legacy Trail. So we're also excited to be able to kind of take advantage of traffic from the Legacy Trail and have a spot on the trail where you can actually come in and get water, get something to eat, go to the bathroom, because we've invested a lot of money into the Legacy Trail, and yet there is still not like access to facilities for people along there. And so currently we are working on some community input surveys. We have one that's on our website right now. If you just go to foodchainlex.org, it'll pop up. And if everybody wants to fill it out, we're looking for as many answers as possible. But we are still exploring what our grocery model is. We are not going to exclude anyone. Everyone will be able to shop there, but we are still exploring, is it a tiered model? Is it a co-op model? Is it not? We really have to like work with the community to figure out what is best for them. I will say yes, but also a lot of like the grants and funding that we got came from the federal level, and with all of the changes happening, there's definitely a lot of just like not knowing what is happening tomorrow. But there is tons of information out there about aquaponics. There are tons of opportunities to apply for grants for local food. That is like a big part of my job as well, is just sifting through grants all day long of like what applies, what doesn't. Are we in the right like geographical area? Are we not? So yes, but you got to do some work.